John, you have to change that music. It needs to be something we can dance to.
That's exactly when I was making my intro. What I was thinking was, what would Andrew Gray dance to? That was that was my first
Then you missed
consideration.
it because it's got to be definitely something more 70s, more like Dancing Queen. There you go. Come
I
up, make your music, make your theme music and intro music something closer to Dancing Queen.
It's funny that you say because Andrew, we are redoing the intro here in the next couple weeks. I'm about actually to do our test picture, hopefully this evening. It's a long story, but we're redoing the intro here pretty soon. And if you're saying that, maybe I should redo because we're gonna have to probably redo the music again just to make it fresh. So maybe
Well,
we should.
make it something that it's catchy that you can hum to.
Catchy that we can hum to.
Yeah,
All right.
think earworm. What you want is you want to make your music an earworm so when people hear it, they never forget it.
Take it. You've heard Andrew Gray say it here first. You get kind of the earworm. Is that like when you get fucked in the ear by a worm? Is that
No,
same kind of?
that's when you get a song and you can't don't know what it is, but you keep hearing it over and over and over again,
Ah,
and you can't get it out of your head.
I gotcha. All right, now I see.
Yes.
All
The
right.
world's worst earworm is Edelweiss because you can start it and all you got to do is say it, and suddenly everybody hears it and it drives them crazy.
Wait, did you say anal vice? Is that what you just said?
Edelweiss.
Anal vice.
Edelweiss.
Oh my god.
See? Edelweiss. Although Dominic and when he was in college, um, the all the kids in his choir had dirty minds, so they made up new words, and the title was anal warts.
Wow.
Yes.
My goodness gracious.
Oh yeah.
Um,
They took all the songs to the sound of music and made up naughty words.
he was kind of a naughty child, was he not? I mean, it kind of seems like that.
In this case, he had help with 4 or 5 friends, and they used to just really go at each other to see who can come up with the dirtiest and best stuff. So it wasn't just him.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, it looks like you. Congratulations, by the way. You had another book come out today. This is, I don't know, your 73rd, 100th. I'm not sure what number you're up to here.
God, I don't know. I don't know, but
Was it like rings on a
but
tree? Like you just cut it open and you can see how many books a man's written? I mean, because you're getting at that, there's a lot of books.
it's a lot of books.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just say it's a lot of books, and we have some big news
All right.
that I can share with everybody. You can go out to Amazon because it is now available for pre-order. We have a book entitled Dragged to the Wedding. Dragged to the Wedding is my first book with Harlequin. It will release in October and it's available on Amazon for pre-order.
Wait, with Harlequin. With Harlequin Press, is that
You
what you're
got it.
saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
congratulations, man. That's fantastic.
Yep. Harlequin picked it up and it's called Dragged to the Wedding. It will
All right.
release in October and this is a really big deal. I mean, I've been sending the book out now for people to help me cover quote it and things.
Mm.
So I've got a number of really big authors that are hopefully going to cover quote it for me. I'm really throwing everything I can at this one.
What is cover quote? Is that so they
You
write a
know,
quote to go on your cover kind of thing? Is that
yeah, like
okay?
read this book. I loved it.
Right, right.
Um, I would really love it if one of the authors, because it's comedy, I would really love when it says, "I laughed till I peed." That would be the best cover quote ever.
There you go. Now we know the
This one,
expected
this one
results.
is this one is absolute comedy. It's got all the feels, but it will make you laugh. It is basically it's about a man who needs a date to his sister's wedding, and he lives in Chicago. The family's in Montana. They don't know he's gay. They have no idea. He needs a date for a few days to his sister's wedding. His female friends are all busy, so he goes with a drag queen.
That makes perfect sense to me. I
So he gets dragged to the wedding.
Oh, see, I see what you did there. I see what you okay.
Yes, you did. He gets dragged to the wedding, and it's
Wow.
funny. It's got all those things you'd expect. Um,
Well, and
and a bunch of things that you will never see coming. It's
yeah,
fun, fun, fun.
congratulations too. Harlequin Press is kind of a big deal, man. That's freaking
It is a
awesome.
big deal. This is a
Everybody's heard of
big deal.
Harlequin. That's
Everybody's heard of Harlequin. This one is my first Harlequin, and I'm hopefully going to have a. Hopefully, I'm working on a deal for a second. So let's hope.
nice. Well, remember, tell them that you need audiobook narration and you know a guy. Just tell them that, you know. Just
Oh, if they do audiobook, I'm already going to say I know the perfect guy for audiobook.
exactly. Just send them
John's
my way,
John's
man.
going to do the audiobook.
Send them my way. I'd love to work with
Oh yeah,
Harlequin.
I will.
Um,
I will.
so
And I can just imagine you reading La La Traviata.
I don't even know what you just said there. Did you have something stuck in your throat when you just said that last thing, or what?
No, La La Traviata is the character's drag name.
Wow. The
Instead of La
characters
Traviata, it's La La Traviata. And her drag
and
mother is the well-traveled two-lane highway.
her mother is called Two
Drag
Lane
mother.
Highway.
Her drag mother is two-lane highway. No,
That
understand,
seems
John, it's the well-traveled two-lane highway.
yes, no, I get it. It seems a bit rude to call somebody a well-traveled two-lane highway. I don't know that I would call a woman or anybody that I know that, but I mean, I just wouldn't want to get punched.
Drag names are tongue-in-cheek. They're always very tongue-in-cheek.
You know, I think you're wrong. I think I would probably call Cheryl that. Cheryl, is she out there today in the crowd? Yeah, she is. So Cheryl Kaiser, I would probably refer to her as.
You're going to
I could
call
see that.
Cheryl Miss Two-Lane Highway?
Well, I mean, I could see where it would apply. It's applicable, though. You know, I wouldn't
Of
have
course,
civilized.
you know, if they were to have a Miss Interstate Highway system, she could be the Miss Two-Lane Highway.
Exactly. So I see where you're going with this. I love you. I love you, Cheryl Kaiser, if you're out there. Anyways, so what we're talking about today, The Resident's Choice. This is
Yes.
just come out. This is number 2 in the series. Is that correct?
This is number 2. The Resident's Dilemma is the first one, but the stories can be read independently.
Yeah, I thought I remember doing a reading for that one. I'm going to read the summary here.
Yep, we did a reading in December.
Pediatric residency means long hours, constant pressure, and occasionally a patient and her father stealing your heart. Second-year pediatric resident Marty Byers loves his job and using all his skills to care for the children in the wards. He figures everything he's seen in his position at Harbor Medical Center has made him ready for anything. But when he meets gorgeous Dennis and his daughter Steffi, he's finally encountered something he isn't prepared for, losing his heart to a patient's father. Dennis gave up everything to raise his sister's daughter after her death, especially after Steffi fell ill. He has a lot of high hopes, mostly that he'll get answers to Steffi's mysterious health issues. And, in Marty, he finds a doctor who listens, really seems to care, and, to top that, is someone he could seriously fall for. But hospitals have rules about doctors and their patients. To make things worse, Steffi's illness seems reluctant to reveal any answers to their questions. When her specialist can't unravel the mystery, Marty refuses to give up. But his diligence triggers suspicions that could pull Marty and Dennis and their potential new family apart forever. Now, there's a dedication here. And I'm glad to see this because for a couple books you got off of this, and it's kind of disturbing, you know. I worry about your relationship is all I'm saying, Andrew. We've been friends a long time. I just want to make sure. So,
yes, I swear Dominic has more books dedicated to him than any man alive. He's got 120 books dedicated to him. So if I dedicate it to somebody else, it's going to be okay. Right. I promise.
It's good to know that the relationship is solid. The dedication to Kevin for all his help and Dominic for his love and support. Right up there.
Kevin is my neighbor who is currently a medical resident.
Okay.
So he helps me with the research.
I gotcha. And now, by the way, so am I Martin? Are you? I forget who you're going to be here and who I'm going to be. I'm sorry.
I'm Marty. You're Dennis.
I'm Dennis.
I'm Marty and Steffi, and you're everybody else.
Gotcha. You're Marty and you're the kid, and I'm everybody else.
Yep. I don't know whether I love or hate 4 in the morning.
Martin Byers said as he sank into the chair behind the pediatric desk. The area was brightly lit, but the rest of the lighting in the department had been turned down. Rooms were dark, with only a low glow in the halls to help their young patients sleep. I know what you mean, Lizzie said from the chair next to him as she went over the medication schedule. I need to get down to the pharmacy to make sure everything is ready to go. Yesterday, they were late, and it was a zoo up here. To her, anything that didn't go along with her strict schedule was a complete disaster. She was one of those people who liked things as predictable as possible. Marty could understand that. Very little of what they did was in any way predictable, so having a routine and sticking to it made sure things were done properly without getting lost in the emergency of the moment. Go on, Patrick Milner told her. We have things under control here. Patrick was the nurse in charge of pediatrics, and he was extremely capable, slightly demanding but worthy of respect, and he always put their young patients first. Marty logged into a terminal and, since it was quiet, got his records updated and all his notes made. Patrick set a steaming cup of coffee next to his computer. The stuff was the lifeblood of any hospital, but at this time of night, it was the nectar of the gods. Over the past 4 months, Marty had come to understand why some residents turned to stimulants to get them through the long hours on duty. If it was busy, then the activity and adrenaline took care of things, but at quiet times like this, fatigue stood right nearby, and everyone needed something to keep it at bay. Marty practically mainlined coffee and Diet Coke to keep going.
Thanks.
He said softly, and gave Patrick a smile before finishing up. He stood to stretch his back, gazing down the hall in front of him to the shaft of light that cut across the darkened passage. Patrick must have seen where his gaze went. That's Steffi Green and her father, Dennis. She came back in 2 days ago, just after your last shift. He sighed. We thought the worst was behind them last summer. Patrick let the rest hang in the air, like the bad news would spread if anyone talked about it. Marty wandered down that way, needing to move after sitting. Not wanting to be a bother, but curious, he peered into the room. A man sat in the chair next to the bed, a little girl attached to an IV on his lap. He slowly rocked back and forth in the chair, humming softly. She had on a pink nightgown that peeked out from under the blanket Dennis had spread over both of them. The little girl was cute, with a light purple hat on her head. The man seemed drawn, like he hadn't slept in the past 2 days, but it was his voice and the way his attention centered solely on the child in his arms that tugged at Marty's heart. Marty took a step closer. The man was singing softly, out of tune and with a roughness to his voice, but he sang anyway, to his daughter, who seemed to sleep. Marty backed away and returned to the desk. He got a cup of ice water and some juice, then returned to the shade of light, to the shaft of light. After knocking softly on the doorframe so he didn't startle Dennis, he entered the room and set both cups close to him. Thank you, Dennis whispered. I think she's asleep, but I can't stop holding her.
It's okay.
Marty understood and turned out the light. Dennis sighed and sat back in the chair, continuing to cradle her. He gently got up and placed Steffi in bed, putting a much-needed, squeezed, stuffed dog next to her. Much squeezed, stuffed dog next to her. She cuddled it as her dad covered her up. Then he picked up the cup of water and left the room. Do you have any more news? Dennis asked in a whisper once they were in the hallway.
I'm sorry, no. I'm a resident here in pediatrics, and I saw your light. It drew me down. I didn't mean to disturb you or your daughter. There hasn't been any additional information since yesterday.
Marty always checked the records of the patients in his care.
The results of the tests they ran are still outstanding.
Sorry, I should have known that they wouldn't be around at this hour, he said gently, then grew quiet before yawning. He covered his mouth and blinked. I'm Dennis, by the way, Dennis Green, and the sick little one is my daughter, Steffi.
Martin Byers,
he said, purposely leaving off the doctor title. At times like this, it seemed too pretentious to use. He smiled, and Dennis did the same.
You should get some rest while your daughter is sleeping. I can get you a blanket or a pillow to make you more comfortable.
Dennis was disheveled and probably hadn't slept much at all since bringing in Steffi. His longish hair went in every direction. but his eyes were surprisingly bright, an intense shade of blue. His nose was a little big, but his lips were full and his cheekbones high and defined. The guy was handsome in a slightly imperfect way that gave him character and interest. Yeah, I should probably try to rest. He returned to the room, and Marty got a blanket and pillow out of the linen supply area. He could have asked one of the nurses to take it to Dennis, but he did it himself. Dennis sat in the chair once more.
The banquette pulls out slightly.
Marty whispered, silently making it about a foot wider.
Lie down and rest as best you can.
He set down the pillow and handed Dennis the blanket. Dennis lay down, and Marty spread the blanket over him before leaving the room. He guessed that Dennis was probably asleep before he made it to the hallway. La la la. Marty's shift continued all day, and he was run off his feet. Test results needed to be verified and then discussed with parents who so often had been up with their child all night and were more exhausted than Marty. But he had to stay sharp and calm. I think it's
That's you.
Oh,
No.
Code Blue 212, Marty heard, and he was already down the hall to the room in question, grabbing the crash cart on the way, wheeling it down without thinking. Usually one of the nurses brought it, but Marty got there first. Dr. Rory Milner, Patrick's brother and an ER resident, was already there. He grabbed the defibrillator paddles as Marty powered it up. "Clear," he called, and everyone got away as Rory shocked the patient. More orders were issued when the little boy's heart didn't return to a normal rhythm. "Clear," Rory called again, applying the paddles. The little boy shook, and this time the treatment took, and his heart began beating once more. Marty took the paddles and left them in a ready position as Rory checked the little boy over. The parents held each other just outside the room as the heart monitor beeped to close to normal rhythm. Rory issued orders that the nurses hurriedly carried out, giving the boy oxygen and getting him settled once more in the bed. "Is he going to be okay now?" the mother asked Rory. "We'll have to see." I don't... What the fuck?
Oh.
Sorry. Completely lost my page there for a second. Sorry about that. Where were we?
We'll have to see.
Got it.
Is he going to be okay now?
We'll have to see. He answered as non-committally as possible. That was the part of the job that sucked, telling parents that they didn't know if their child was going to make it or not. The physician in charge has been notified, and everyone is going to keep a close eye on Timmy. It's all we can do for now. That and hope like hell that he didn't crash again. Marty returned the equipment to its location next to the desk and made sure it was cleaned and ready for use again. The nurses usually did that sort of thing, but they were busy at the moment. "You okay?" Patrick asked once Marty allowed himself a few minutes to sit down. Marty shook his head.
I will be.
Patrick spoke quietly to one of the other nurses and came back to Marty. "Come on, you and I need food. I signed you out for a half hour." He turned and Marty followed Patrick to the elevators where they rode down to the first floor heading to the cafeteria. "Timmy got to you," Patrick said once they had their food and sat down. "Was that your first time?" Marty nodded.
With a kid, yeah. I knew this type of situation would come eventually, but we were successful in bringing him back. But yeah, you don't want to think about kids going through all that.
Patrick nodded. "I have a daughter, Charlotte. She's a year old, and I thank God for her health and energy every single day of my life." He took a bite of his hot dog, chewed and swallowed. "You probably know my brother is a resident in the ER. He was the one I called as soon as Timmy got into trouble. Rory is the best in the ER, and I'm not just saying that because he's my brother. I asked him once about working in pediatrics, and he said, and I quote, 'Not on a bet.'"
I see.
Marty said as he forked a bit of his salad. "Rory told me that he can maintain the professional distance he needs to in the ER. He's told me more than once that he could never do it here, that the kids would get into his heart too damn fast and it would rip him apart. There are days when I have difficulty coping, but you develop a tough skin and keep in mind that we do everything we can for these kids. Most of the time we win. We give it our all. And the kids go home with their parents and on to lead their lives. But there are some, like Timmy or Steffi, who have a long, intense fight ahead of them. Marty nodded.
I know. We do all we can and help them fight, but sometimes we don't win.
He refused to let his voice break. Yeah. And on those nights, we go home, we hug those we love, and the next day we get up and do it all over again. That's the job. But it doesn't mean you have to hold it all inside. If you need help, ask for it. The nurses on staff are experienced. Some of them have been here 20 years. Rory's soon-to-be husband, Garth, joined the team from the ER a few months ago. We are all here to listen. The pediatricians, every single one of them, have been exactly where you are now.
I know, and thank you.
Marty said, already feeling better.
I appreciate the shoulder.
Patrick smiled and leaned forward. Anytime. You just have to behave, do your best, and above all, stay away from my nurse. Stay away from my nurses. His gaze grew hard, and Marty chuckled.
No problem there, considering the only one I might be interested in is already taken by your brother. You have nothing to worry about on that score.
He couldn't help snickering.
I have to know, how much grief did you give your brother?
Plenty, though I did get a danged good nurse out of the deal when Garth transferred to pediatrics, so there wouldn't be any conflicts. But I still give him grief whenever I get the chance. It's a big brother's prerogative, and I take advantage of it as much as I can. Patrick finished his lunch, and Marty did the same. Then they headed back up to the floor and into near chaos. A scream echoed down the corridor, and Marty took off with Patrick right behind him. A chorus of cries and sniffles followed as they reached the door of the room. "It hurts," a little girl cried, her mother trying to calm her.
What hurts?
Marty asked calmly as he sat on the side of her bed. Is this the little girl that you were going to do?
No, this is a different one. Go ahead.
All right, I got it. My arm.
There's lots of kids in this one. Unfortunately, it's a pediatric unit. You're going to get kids.
It sounds like an Andrew Graber. All right. My arm. It hurts real bad. She glowered at her mother. She says it doesn't, but it does. Oh, the little girl screamed again.
That's enough,
Marty said sharply.
I'm here and I'm going to take a look at it, but you need to stop that now.
He met her gaze, and the little girl glared at him for a second before lowering her eyes. Marty lifted her casted arm, and she whimpered immediately.
I want an MRI and an X-ray. Let's find out what's going on.
He got up and pulled over one of the portable computer stations to check Brenda's chart. Patrick went to his own station, probably to fill out Marty's orders.
I want to get that cast off her now.
Why? Patrick asked calmly.
Because her arm is swelling. The surgeon noted that he left room for it to swell, but it's getting bigger than he expected. We can put a new one on, but get it cut and wrapped before we have to take her to see before we take her down to see what's happening.
He added his own notes, and Patrick was already on the phone. The other nurses were getting the other kids on the floor quieted, and Marty gave them a lot of credit for keeping things as calm as possible. The technician arrived, and once he cut down the side of the cast, Brenda said her arm felt better. Still, Marty wanted to see if there were any other issues. If anything showed up, he would send the test results to the surgeon for his review, as well as to Dr. Reimer, the supervising physician. When everything was set up, he made his way through the wards and stopped at Steffi's door when Dennis came out to greet him. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concern in his voice.
Under control. How's Steffi?
Marty asked. Dennis seemed about ready to cry. No better. All I can do is hold her hand and hope. And we go through the same thing over and over again. It looks like she's getting better, and then we end up right back here again. He sighed. I know none of this is your fault. But I just want my little girl to feel good. There's talking and they're talking another round of chemotherapy, but she's so weak already. She either sleeps all the time or she can't sleep at all.
I know.
Marty longed to help him so badly. His huge eyes called to him, reaching out, and all Marty wanted to do was take Dennis into his arms and offer some sort of comfort. But he couldn't. It was so far across the line of propriety.
Daddy,
Steffi called from behind them.
are you going?
Dennis turned around. I have to, honey. I have to go to work, but I'll be back in time to read you a story and sing you to sleep, I promise.
But Daddy,
She said softly, and just from the expression in his eyes, Marty could see how she pulled at Dennis.
I'm Dr. Marty.
He said from around Dennis. She sniffled.
Like a real doctor?
Marty chuckled.
Yeah, I'm a real doctor and I work here.
He came into the room.
See, I have a stethoscope and a thermometer gun, just like a real doctor.
Steffi pulled the blankets over her head.
No butt temperature.
Dennis turned to Marty. One of the nurses tried to take her temperature that way the other day, he explained. It scared her, and the nurse ended up using one of the guns. Marty tried to figure out why anyone would use that method, but then some of the staff could be a little old-fashioned. He made a mental note to speak to Patrick about it.
Nope, I only use one of these and it doesn't even touch you.
He sat on the edge of her bed.
Now, why don't you let your daddy go to work? I'll be here during the day and I'll stop in when I can see you. Okay? It will be like you have your own private doctor.
He gave her his best smile.
Do you know how to play old maid?
Steffi asked.
I do. It's one of the things they teach us in medical school.
He turned to Dennis, who stepped closer and gave Steffi a hug. Dennis, I guess. I promise I'll be back just as soon as I can. He straightened up, turned to go, then paused in the doorway to wave before leaving.
It's going to be lunchtime soon. Did you order what you wanted?
Marty asked. When Steffi shook her head, Marty told her he would be right back. One of the dietary staff was making their way through the ward, and Marty intercepted her, got the card for Steffi, and helped her fill it out. Then he returned it, and after promising to come back, he made sure Steffi was settled, had the television on, and was holding her stuffed dog before returning to duty.
Patrick,
He said once he got back to the desk.
What's with the whole temperature taking thing?
Bernice, he asked, sighing.
I guess so. One of my patients pulled her blanket over her head and tried to hide when I asked to take her temp.
He shook his head. It's how she insists on doing it, Patrick said. I've told her more than once that isn't how we do things any longer. He seemed frustrated.
Well, next time it happens, I'll have her up on charges of assault. Let her explain it to the police. There is a less intrusive and traumatic methods, and she's got to use them, regardless of what she likes or how she's done things in the past.
That should give him the ammunition he needed. I don't think that will be necessary, but it's good to know you'll back me up, Patrick said. Maybe you need a few minutes if something like that is getting you this wound up.
Maybe.
Marty agreed.
It's just that these kids don't need any more stress. Worrying about procedures or if the pain is bad enough. We shouldn't be stressing about how we treat them.
Maybe he was overly tired, but he had hours to go on his shift. I agree, and I'll take care of it, Patrick said, and Marty stifled a yawn and went back to work. After a few minutes, a coffee cup magically appeared next to where he was working, and he glanced up.
Thanks, Dylan,
Marty said to the nurse before sipping the life-giving brew. He needed something to perk him up, and a shot of caffeine would hopefully do the trick. He did his best to update charts and was thankful the ward was quiet, at least for the time being. Marty took a few minutes to watch the flow of the wards. Parents came and went, most staying close to their child's rooms. After a while, he wandered down to Steffi's room. She was asleep, holding her stuffed dog. Marty lowered the volume on the television and checked the monitors for her vitals. Then he left with a soft sigh, grateful she was quiet, but not liking what he was seeing. The tests had come back largely inconclusive, with little improvement. Certainly not what Dennis would have been hoping for. That was it. Chapters 1 of The Resident's Choice by our very own Andrew Gray. Thanks for coming around, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, John. Yeah, this is one of those interesting, unique stories. There's the neighbor who's a resident talks about the medical zebra.
The Medical Zebra.
Zebra. If you have a patient that's come in that's been kicked by an animal, by a large four-hooved animal in North America, you think horse, and you treat as such. You don't think zebra.
Probably not. No, I
Okay.
wouldn't. I wouldn't
No,
either.
I mean you go by the most likely scenario. Well, this particular story is the medical zebra.
Gotcha.
Okay, Steffi is the medical zebra, and he and I had so much fun figuring out figuring out how we would unravel this medical zebra.
Nice. Dude, good job. I'm sure that it's fantastic. Now, I know that it's available ebook today, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. And when are you coming back next?
Next month, but I don't have the date. I think it looks like March 14th.
Sweet. Sweet. We
For
will look
for
forward to it.
Fireman's Rescue will be March 14th for
Hey,
firemen. We got firemen,
we're
really hot firemen.
back to the firemen. Fantastic.
Yep,
Um,
back to the firemen.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. We will see you next time. Andrew, all you got to do is wave at the camera.
Wave at the